The transport ship smelled like recycled air and nervous sweat. Danny Reyes pressed his forehead against the cold window and watched Celestine Academy grow larger against the stars. The station was beautiful in a cold way. All white metal and perfect angles. Nothing like the dusty farm back in Argentina where he grew up. He was 17 years old and completely alone. His acceptance letter had arrived 6 months ago. First human ever admitted to Celestine Academy, the school where 12 different alien species sent their brightest children. Danny's test scores had made the admissions council argue for 3 days before they finally said yes. His mother had cried when she read the letter. Happy tears and sad tears mixed together. Your father would be so proud, she said. Danny touched the old watch on his wrist. The only thing his father left behind before the accident took him. The transport docked with a gentle bump. Danny grabbed his single bag and walked into his new life. Celestine Academy was enormous. Hallways stretched in every direction like a maze. Students of all shapes and sizes moved past him without a second look. Some had scales, some had fur, some floated instead of walked. Danny kept his head down and followed the signs to the orientation hall. He found a seat in the back corner. The hall filled up with hundreds of students. Most sat in groups based on their species, laughing, talking, greeting old friends. Danny sat alone and watched as a tall serpentine being with silver scales and 4 arms took the stage. His robes were expensive. His voice was loud. Welcome to another year at Celestine Academy. I am Headmaster Solace, and I expect excellence from each of you. The speech lasted 20 minutes. Danny memorized the important parts. Class schedules, dormitory assignments, rules about conduct. When it ended, students flooded toward the exits. Danny stood up and turned toward the door. His shoulder bumped into something solid. He looked up into cold yellow eyes set in a face covered with gleaming silver scales. 4 arms, expensive clothes, a cruel smile. Watch where you walk, creature. The voice dripped with contempt. Danny stepped back. Sorry about that. You're the human. The serpentine student looked Danny up and down like he was examining garbage. I heard they let a prey animal attend this year. I assumed it was a joke. Other students stopped to watch. Some laughed quietly. Danny felt their eyes on him. I'm Danny, he said calmly. Danny Reyes. I don't care what you're called. The student leaned closer. His breath smelled like copper. I am Rallis, son of Ambassador Vithrani. My family has attended this academy for 9 generations. And you? You come from a planet that hadn't even discovered fire when my ancestors were building empires. Danny said nothing. He just nodded politely. Nothing to say. Rallis laughed. Smart prey knows when to stay quiet. Danny stepped around him and walked away. He heard more laughter behind him. He didn't look back. His dormitory room was at the end of a forgotten hallway in the oldest wing of the academy. The walls were bare gray metal. The bed was small. The desk was smaller. One window showed nothing but empty space. Danny unpacked his bag. 3 sets of clothes, 2 books, a photograph of his mother. His father's watch that he was setting the photograph on his desk when he heard something in the hallway. Scraping sounds, movement, then silence. Danny opened his door. His belongings were scattered across the floor. Clothes thrown everywhere. Books torn apart. The photograph lay face down in a puddle of something wet, and his father's watch was gone. Danny stood very still for a long moment. His hands didn't shake. His breathing stayed even. He bent down and picked up the photograph, wiped it clean on his shirt, looked at his mother's smiling face. Then he began gathering his things. Piece by piece, slow and patient, that he did not file a complaint. He did not report the incident to any authority. He simply cleaned up the mess and returned to his room. But that night, Danny sat at a small desk and opened one of his surviving books. He found a blank page in the back, and he began to write. Names, observations, patterns. Rallis, son of Ambassador Vithrani. 4 arms, silver scales, yellow eyes, cruel smile. 9 generations at this academy. Political family. Thinks humans are prey. Danny closed the book and looked out his window at the stars. Back home, his mother had a saying. The patient farmer always eats. The impatient farmer goes hungry. Danny was very patient, He touched his bare wrist where his father's watch used to be. Felt the absence of it like a missing heartbeat. That's fine, he whispered to the darkness. I can wait. Somewhere in the academy, Rallis was probably laughing about the pathetic human who didn't even fight back, who just walked away like scared prey, who would be easy to break. Danny smiled. They had no idea what they were dealing with. Humans were not prey. Humans had never been prey. Humans came from a planet so dangerous that simply surviving childhood was an achievement. They had hunted every predator on their world to extinction or submission, and the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their strength or their speed, that it was their patience. Danny turned off his light and went to sleep. Tomorrow, his real work would begin. 3 weeks passed like water through fingers. Danny learned the rhythm of Celestine Academy. Classes started at 7, lunch at 12, dinner at 6, library closed at 10. The pattern was simple, and Danny followed it exactly. He also learned the rhythm of his tormentors. Rallis had gathered a group around him. 5 students who found pleasure in making Danny's life miserable. Danny memorized each of them with the same patience he used for his studies. Brecken was easy to spot. A massive creature with stone-gray skin and small dark eyes. His species, the Gormith, were known for their strength. Brecken used that strength to shoulder-check Danny in the hallways. Every single day, same spot, same time, like clockwork. Scylla was harder to see coming. A Mindari female with pale blue skin and no visible eyes. Her species were telepaths. They could read surface thoughts if they concentrated. Scylla liked to announce Danny's private feelings in front of crowds. Yesterday, she told everyone that Danny cried sometimes when he thought about his dead father. The dining hall had laughed for 5 minutes. The twins were simple followers. Pexentala, reptilian Kitherans with green scales and nervous eyes. They did whatever Rallis told them because his family could destroy theirs with a single word. Danny took notes on all of them, their habits, their schedules, their weaknesses, but he never fought back. In advanced physics class, someone spilled chemical solution on Danny's assignment. The paper dissolved in seconds. Danny simply asked the professor for a new sheet and started over in the dining hall. His food was knocked from his tray 3 times in 1 week. Danny picked it up off the floor and ate what he could salvage. In the corridors, Rallis and his friends blocked Danny's path, made him late for classes, whispered insults about humans, about prey animals, about primitives who didn't deserve to breathe the same air. Danny said, "Excuse me," and found another route point one afternoon. Old Professor Aldine stopped Danny after history of galactic civilizations. Aldine was a featherlight, a delicate bird-like being with silver feathers and wise, ancient eyes. "You interest me, young human," Aldine said. His voice was soft as wind through leaves. "Thank you, Professor. I have watched many students in my 400 years of teaching. I have seen the bullied and the bullies, the strong and the weak." Aldine tilted his head. "You do not act like prey, Danny Reyes. What are you waiting for?" Danny looked at the old professor for a long moment. "The right moment," he said. Aldine made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans. I have read about your species. You are patient hunters. You chase your prey until it falls from exhaustion. You can walk longer than any creature on your planet. We call it persistence hunting," Danny said. "Yes." Aldine's ancient eyes gleamed. "I wonder what Rallis and his friends will think when they realize they are being hunted." Danny said nothing. He simply nodded and walked away. That night, he went to the Academy archives. The archives contained every record from the Academy's 300-year history. Admissions records, academic transcripts, disciplinary files, all of it stored in massive data crystals. Danny began to dig. He started with Rallis. It took 2 hours to find what he needed. Rallis had failed his entrance examination. His scores were far below the minimum requirement. But his file contained a notation from the admissions council. Accepted per diplomatic request. His father had bribed someone. Brecken was next. 2 failed entrance attempts. Third attempt showed a mysterious 50-point improvement overnight. Someone had changed his scores. Scylla's file was the most interesting. Mindari telepaths needed special licenses to use their abilities on other sentient beings. Using telepathy without consent was illegal under Academy law, punishable by expulsion. Scylla had no license. The twins owed money to 3 different gambling operations on the station. Their family was one payment away from financial ruin. Danny saved everything to a secure data crystal. Then he erased all evidence that he had accessed these files. The next morning, a small fennec-like creature approached Danny at breakfast. Her fur was golden. Her ears were enormous. Her eyes were full of fear. "May I sit here?" she asked quietly. Of course. Her name was Orla, a Kitsari from a minor colony world. She had been the primary target of Rallis and his friends for 2 years, until Danny arrived and became the new toy. "I wanted to thank you," Orla said. "Since you came, they mostly leave me alone." Danny looked at her. Really looked. He saw the old scars under her fur, the way she flinched at loud noises, the haunted look in her eyes. "That's not right," he said. "No one should be treated that way. There's nothing we can do. Rallis is too powerful." His father is a politician," Danny interrupted gently. "And politicians can fall." Orla stared at him. "What are you planning?" Danny smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I'm not planning anything," he said. "I'm just being patient." Across the dining hall, Rallis was watching them. His yellow eyes burned with anger. The prey was making friends. The prey was not breaking. This would require more pressure. Danny saw the look. He memorized it, added it to his notes. The right moment was getting closer. The library closed at 10, but Danny had found a way to stay later. A maintenance tunnel connected the eastern study rooms to an abandoned section of the station. The old librarian, a gentle plant being named Grove, pretended not to notice when Danny slipped through after hours. Perhaps Grove remembered what it felt like to be small and hunted. Tonight, Danny sat surrounded by data crystals and old documents. Orla sat across from him, her golden ears twitching with nervousness. "You're really going to fight them?" she whispered. "I thought humans were supposed to be violent, quick to anger. Why haven't you just attacked Rallis?" Danny looked up from his reading. "You think violence would help? My people would have tried by now. And what happened when your people tried to fight back against bullies?" Orla's ears flattened against her skull. "We lost. Always. They're bigger, stronger, more connected." "Exactly." Danny returned to his documents. "Violence is a tool. You don't use a hammer when you need a scalpel." "I don't understand." Danny pushed a data crystal across the table. "Rallis's father got him into this academy through bribery. That's illegal under galactic education law. If it becomes public, Rallis loses his spot. His father loses his career." Orla's eyes went wide. "How did you find this?" "I looked." Nobody else bothered to look because everyone assumed Rallis was untouchable. Danny pulled out another crystal. Brecken's entrance scores were falsified. Scylla uses her telepathy without a license. The twins are drowning in gambling debt. But if you have all this, why haven't you used it? Danny leaned back in his chair. "Because I'm not trying to hurt them. I'm trying to change things. If I release this information now, Rallis gets expelled. Someone else takes his place. The system stays the same. Nothing actually changes. Then what are you trying to do? I want everyone to see who they really are. Not because I told them. Because Rallis showed them himself." Orla was quiet for a long moment. "Humans are terrifying," she finally said. Danny smiled. "We prefer the term persistent." Over the next few weeks, Danny continued his quiet campaign. He helped struggling students with their homework, asked for nothing in return, never mentioned Rallis or his friends, never complained about his treatment. Word spread slowly through the academy. The human was strange. The human was kind. The human never got angry, no matter what was done to him. Some students started sitting with Danny at meals. Not many, just a few brave souls who were tired of the fear that ruled their lives. Orla was always there. She had become his shadow, his friend, his first ally. Rallis noticed the change. His yellow eyes tracked Danny with growing frustration. The prey was supposed to break. The prey was supposed to run or fight or beg. Instead, the prey was building something. The confrontation came on a Thursday evening. Danny was leaving the biology lab after a late study session. The corridor was empty. His footsteps echoed against metal walls. Then Rallis stepped out of the shadows. Brecken beside him, Scylla behind. the twins blocking the only exit. We need to talk, pray. Rallis's voice was cold as space. Danny stopped walking. I'm listening. You've been making friends, helping people, being useful. Rallis circled slowly around Danny. All four arms crossed against his chest. Some students are starting to forget their place, starting to think they can ignore their betters. I'm just studying, Danny said. Same as everyone else. Liar. Scylla's voice cut through the air. Her telepathy brushed against Danny's mind like cold fingers. You're planning something. I can feel it. You're not afraid at all. Danny looked directly at her. Get out of my head. Make me pray. Rallis laughed. Scylla tells me you've been researching us, digging through archives, collecting information like a little spy. He leaned close enough that Danny could smell his copper breath. What did you find? Nothing important. Liar. Rallis grabbed Danny's collar with two of his arms. I've tried being patient with you. Tried giving you chances to learn your place. But you don't learn. I learned plenty, Danny said calmly. I've learned that you failed your entrance exam. That Brecken's scores were changed. That Scylla's telepathy is illegal. That the twins, Rallis threw Danny against the wall. Pain exploded through his shoulders. Stars danced in his vision. You think you can threaten me? Rallis hissed. My father will destroy you. Your family. Your entire pathetic species. Danny pushed himself upright. His voice was steady despite the pain. I haven't threatened anyone. I've just been paying attention. He looked Rallis dead in the eyes. Before you do anything else, you should know that I've already filed sealed documentation with the headmaster's office. Everything I've found. Names, dates, evidence. If anything happens to me, it opens automatically. Silence that Rallis's grip loosened. Uncertainty flickered in his yellow eyes. You're bluffing. Danny smiled. It was the smile of a predator. Try me. The moment stretched. Tension thick enough to cut. Finally, Rallis released Danny and stepped back. This isn't over, he growled. Danny straightened his collar. I know. That's what I'm counting on. He walked away without looking back. His shoulders ached. His heart pounded, but his plan was working. The annual cooperation games were supposed to be a celebration. Teams of mixed species competing together in challenges designed to build unity. Physical tests, mental puzzles, survival scenarios. The whole academy gathered to watch. Parents and dignitaries tuned in from across 12-star systems. Danny understood the truth. The games were another arena where the powerful crushed the weak, where wealthy families showed off their children, where students like him were reminded of their place. But this year would be different. Team assignments were posted on a Monday morning. Danny found his name on Team 17. Four other outcasts joined him. Orla, of course, a quiet mineralith boy named Kryn, whose crystalline body made him slow but incredibly strong. A timid Aquari girl named Finn who could breathe underwater and see in total darkness. And a lanky Verdani plant person named Moss who everyone thought was stupid because he spoke slowly. Their first opponents would be Team 3. Rallis, Brecken, Scylla, the twins. He bribed someone, Orla said, staring at the list. He made sure we'd face each other first round. Danny nodded. I expected this. We're going to lose. Probably. Danny gathered his team with a wave. Come on, we need to talk. They met in Danny's small room that night. 5 outcasts sitting on the floor because there weren't enough chairs. Danny spread a map of the biodome level across his bed. Tomorrow's challenge is wilderness survival. 3 hours in the biodome. Team with the most points wins. Points for finding hidden markers. Points for reaching checkpoints. Bonus points for capturing the other team's flag. Finn raised her web hand. Their team has Brecken. He'll just chase us down and take our flag by force. That's what they expect. Danny pointed at a blue area on the map. This section is flooded tunnels. Emergency drainage system. Brecken can't swim. How do you know that? Kryn asked. I watch him avoid the pool during recreation for 2 months. Gormiths sink like stones in water. Orla's ears perked up. You've been planning for this. I've been paying attention. Danny pointed at another section. Scylla's telepathy only works within 50 meters. If we stay spread out and communicate through hand signals, she can't track us. Ma spoke slowly as always. What about the twins? The twins follow orders. Without Rallis telling them what to do, they panic. Danny looked at each of his teammates. We're not stronger than them, but we don't have to be. We just have to be smarter. They planned until midnight. Danny showed them things about themselves they had never noticed. Kren's crystal body could climb vertical walls. Finn could hear sounds underwater from incredible distances. Moss could release spores that temporarily clouded vision. Orla's enormous ears could detect heartbeats from 20 meters away. We're not weak, Danny said. We've just been told we're weak for so long that we started to believe it. The next morning, the games began. The biodome was a massive artificial ecosystem. Forests, rivers, mountains, all contained within a dome 3 kilometers wide. Cameras floated everywhere, broadcasting to screens across the station. Team 17 started at the southern entrance. Team 3 started at the north. Somewhere between them, hidden markers waited to be found. Danny split his team immediately. Finn went into the flooded tunnels. Kren scaled a cliff face that would take the others hours to climb. Moss vanished into the thick forest, his green skin blending perfectly with the vegetation. Orla stayed with Danny, her ears tracking every sound. For the first hour, it worked perfectly. Team 17 gathered markers one by one, while Rallis's team searched fruitlessly. Scylla's telepathy was useless. Brecken's strength meant nothing against opponents he couldn't catch. Then Rallis changed tactics. He's coming for you directly, Orla whispered. Her ears were flat against her skull. He's abandoned the game. He just wants to hurt you. Danny nodded. Good. Good. Stay hidden, no matter what happens. Danny pressed a small data chip into Orla's hand. If things go wrong, take this to Professor Aldine. Danny, what are you? Trust me. Danny walked alone into a clearing, surrounded by trees on all sides, cameras floating overhead, recording everything. Rallis emerged from the shadows. Alone, his yellow eyes burned with hatred. Your friends can't help you here, Prey. I don't need help. Rallis lunged. Her arms reached for Danny's throat. Danny didn't dodge, didn't fight, that he let Rallis grab him. The first punch cracked something in Danny's chest. Pain exploded through his body. The second punch split his lip. The third knocked him to the ground. Rallis stood over him, breathing hard. Finally you break like you should. Danny coughed blood onto the grass. But he was smiling. Look up, he whispered. Rallis looked. A camera floated directly above them. Red light blinking, recording everything. You see, Danny said through bloody teeth. I found something during my research. This section of the biodome has extra surveillance. Security cameras hidden in the trees. Everything that happens here gets saved to permanent archives. Rallis went pale. Danny pushed himself to his knees, looked directly into the camera. I wanted everyone to see what kind of person Rallis Vethrani really is. And I wanted Rallis to show them himself. In the stands, thousands of students watched in stunned silence. Parents across 12 systems stared at their screens. Ambassador Vethrani's face went gray. Danny collapsed onto the grass, still smiling. The trap had finally closed. The medical wing smelled like antiseptic and hummed with healing machines. Danny lay in a white bed with tubes connected to his arms. 3 cracked ribs, fractured wrist, brisé lunge, split lip. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. Danny thought luck had nothing to do with it. He hurt everywhere, but he couldn't stop smiling. The door opened. Orla rushed in, her golden fur standing on end. You absolute fool. You planned that. You planned to get beaten in front of everyone. It worked, didn't it? You could have died. Danny shrugged, then winced at the pain. Humans are harder to kill than we look. The footage had spread across the station within hours. Every student had seen it. Every parent had seen it. Every dignitary and official had watched Rallis Vethrani beat an unarmed human student while cameras recorded everything. And then they had seen Danny's bloody smile, heard his words, understood that this hadn't been a tragedy. It had been a trap. Ambassador Vethrani arrived that afternoon. His expensive robes swept the floor as he stormed toward the headmaster's office. His 4 arms gestured wildly. His voice echoed through the corridors. I demand that human be expelled. He manipulated my son. He engineered that entire situation. Headmaster Solace was waiting for him. The ancient crystalline being showed no emotion on her faceted face. Ambassador, please sit. I will not sit. This is an outrage. Very well. Stunt. Solace activated a data display. Let me show you what we found since this morning. Danny's sealed files had opened automatically. Every piece of evidence he had gathered was now part of the official record. Bribes, falsified scores, illegal telepathy, gambling debts. Your son's admission was purchased, Solace said calmly, in violation of 17 different regulations. Would you like me to continue? Ambassador Vethrani went silent. The tribunal convened the next day. Danny was wheeled in on a medical bed. He hadn't asked to be there, but Solace had insisted. One by one, students stood to testify that a young Featherlight spoke first. She described how Brecken had broken her wing last year and called it an accident. 3 witnesses supported her story that the Mineralith boy talked about the twins stealing his family's artifacts and selling them to pay gambling debts. A trembling Aquari girl explained how Scylla had read her deepest fears and announced them to the entire dining hall. And then dozens more. Years of cruelty finally given voice. Students who had been too afraid to speak now stood with tears in their eyes and told their stories. Orla was last. Her voice shook but didn't break. I was their target for 2 years before Danny arrived. They hurt me in ways I can't even describe. No one helped. No one cared. Everyone was too afraid of Rallis's family. She looked at Danny. Then a human showed up. A small, quiet human from a primitive planet. And he changed everything. Not by fighting. Not by violence. Just by refusing to be broken. Professor Aldine stood at the back of the room. His ancient eyes glistened. The verdict came quickly. Rallis was expelled and barred from all diplomatic service. Brecken received a 5-year suspension. Scylla's telepathic license was permanently revoked. The twins were sentenced to mandatory community service and debt rehabilitation. Ambassador Vethrani's career ended that same day. The bribes he had paid became public record. 3 other families connected to his schemes were investigated. The corruption ran deeper than anyone had imagined. After the tribunal, a human woman visited Danny in the medical wing. Her name was Director Santos from Earth's diplomatic station. She had silver hair and kind eyes. The Academy asked me why we sent someone like you, she said. They expected a soldier, a genius, a diplomat. Instead, we sent a farm boy from Argentina. Danny tried to shrug. His ribs protested. I just did what anyone would do. No, you did what humans do. Santos Milit. We don't produce warriors for export, Danny. We produce survivors. People who can walk longer, wait longer, and endure more than any other species in the galaxy. People who turn patience into a weapon. I didn't want to be a weapon. You weren't. You were a mirror. Santos patted his uninjured hand. You showed them who they really were. That's far more powerful. That night, after everyone had left, Danny heard a soft knock at his door. He expected Orla. Instead, a small silver-scaled child stepped inside. Young, maybe 9 years old by human standards. Yellow eyes wet with tears. Are you the human? She whispered. Danny nodded. My name is Venna. Rallis is my brother. The child clutched something in her small hands. I found this in his room. I think it belongs to you. She held out Danny's father's watch. Danny stared at it. His throat closed with emotion. Thank you, he managed. I'm sorry for what he did. Venna's voice cracked. I'm not like him. I promise I'm not like him. Danny reached out and took the watch. Felt its familiar weight. Remembered his father's hands. I know you're not, he said gently. You proved that by coming here. Venna nodded and fled into the corridor. Danny held the watch against his chest. For the first time in months, he let himself cry. Graduation day arrived with the color of 1,000 suns filtering through the Academy's great dome. 2 years had passed since the tribunal. 2 years of change so deep that old students barely recognized their school. Danny stood backstage in formal robes, his father's watch gleaming on his wrist. Orla appeared beside him. Her golden fur was brushed smooth. Her eyes shone with excitement. Ready? She asked. Terrified, Danny admitted. Good. That means you're taking it seriously. They were co-valedictorians. First time in Academy history that honor had been shared. First time in history the human had earned it all. The auditorium was packed beyond capacity. Students filled every seat. Faculty lined the walls. Dignitaries from 12 systems watched through floating cameras. And in the front row, one seat had been reserved for a special guest that Danny's mother sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was wearing her best dress, the one she had saved for 3 years to buy. Her eyes were already red from crying. Headmaster Solace took the stage. Her crystalline body caught the light and scattered rainbows across the crowd. 2 years ago, this academy faced a crisis of conscience. We had become a place where power mattered more than principle, where wealth determined worth, where cruelty was tolerated because the cruel were connected. Solace paused. One student changed that, not through violence, not through revenge, through something far more difficult, through patience, compassion, and an unwavering belief that things could be better. The auditorium was silent. Today, I present our valedictorians, Orla of Kitsera and Danny Reyes of Earth. Applause thundered through the hall. Danny walked onto the stage on shaking legs. Orla squeezed his hand once before taking her position at the second podium. Danny looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of faces, dozens of species, all watching him. He had written a speech. 20 drafts over 3 weeks. But looking at those faces, looking at his mother crying in the front row, he set the papers aside. "I'm not going to read my prepared remarks," he said. "I'm just going to talk." Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. When I arrived at this academy, someone called me prey. They said humans were primitive, weak, that we didn't deserve to be here. Danny gripped the podium. They were wrong, but not for the reasons you might think. He found Orla's eyes, found Kren and Finn and Moss scattered through the crowd, found the dozens of students who had become his friends over 2 impossible years. Humans aren't special because we're strong. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the fastest or the smartest or the most advanced. We come from a brutal planet that tried to kill us every single day. And you know what we did? We survived. We adapted. We kept walking when everything told us to stop. His mother was sobbing openly now. A kind featherlight beside her offered a tissue. Where I come from, we have a saying. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. That's what bullies count on. They count on us being afraid. They count on us staying quiet. They count on us accepting our place. Danny's voice grew stronger. But we have another saying too. Hard times make strong people. He looked directly at the camera broadcasting to 12 systems. I didn't come here to prove that humans are powerful. We already knew that. I came here to learn. And I learned the most important lesson of my life. Strength isn't about being the biggest. It isn't about being the loudest or the most violent or the best connected. Real strength is knowing who you are and never letting anyone make you forget it. The applause began before he finished speaking. It built and built until the walls shook. Danny stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed. Orla gave her speech next. She talked about fear and courage, about how a small human from a primitive planet had taught her that size didn't determine value, that kindness was its own kind of power, that it was over. Diplomas were distributed. Photographs were taken. Families reunited. Danny found his mother in the crowd. She grabbed him and didn't let go for a long time. Her tears soaked into his formal robes. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered. Danny couldn't speak. He just held her. Later, as the crowds thinned, a young silver-scaled girl approached. Venna had grown in 2 years. Her yellow eyes were still kind. She was wearing the uniform of a first-year student. "I start next term," she said nervously. "I wanted to see you before you left. To thank you." Danny smiled. "Thank me for what?" "For showing everyone that my family name doesn't define me. That I can be different." She hesitated. "Are you scared?" "Going back to Earth." "A little. But that's okay. Fear just means something matters." Venna nodded slowly. "What if the other students treat me badly because of my brother?" Danny put a hand on her shoulder. "Then you show them who you really are. Not with words. Not with fighting. Just by being yourself every single day until they can't ignore it anymore." "That sounds hard." "It is. But you're not alone. Orla will still be here. Kren and Finn and Moss. They'll look out for you. Danny squeezed her shoulder. And so will I, even from Earth. Just send a message when you need me. Venna's eyes filled with tears. She hugged him quickly and ran off before she could cry. Danny watched her go. The future of Celestine Academy, carrying a better legacy than her brother ever could. Orla appeared at his side. Ready to go home, Danny looked around the hall one last time. At the walls where he had been pushed. The corridors where he had been mocked. The places that had tried to break him and failed. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. They walked toward the exit together. Above the doors, carved in stone, the Academy's motto gleamed in the light. Excellence through unity. For the first time in 300 years, it actually meant something.